Tell me about that first apartment.
Actually, it was a five. We were we were on the fifth floor of a seven-story walk-up,
Hmm.
and it was a very for the times. It was a large apartment. I think it was maybe three bedrooms, but for nine people, that's three bedrooms. What is it? Is it a lot?
Right.
So I wound up sleeping on an army cot in the kitchen,
Mm.
which was a pretty large kitchen. But we had to put it up every day and take it down in the morning. And that's one of the places that I've always had a weak back, and I think it was because of sleeping on an army cot that had a, a wooden bar in the middle of it, and that's
Oh,
where my back was always lying. And so I always blamed that cot for having a bad back.
oh, interesting. And so that's where you slept while you all were at that apartment, and then you started going to school.
Yes, PS 107. I
So
remember distinctly.
I know, I love that. I was wondering if you could talk about, learning English and how, and the struggle with that, how that went for you.
Um, well, I was Spanish speaking, so
Hmm.
and they didn't have any English as a second language that I can remember.
In
So
1947, no, we did not.
you were forced to learn English, and I think I did pretty well because as a result of that, my mother always used me as her interpreter
Right.
whenever she had to go somewhere. Uh, or well, we were on welfare for a
Hmm.
number of years,
Hmm.
and once a month you had to go and re-register and update them and everything. And so I was the translator for her. Uh, and she didn't speak a word of English. She had a third grade education.
Hmm.
She didn't know how to read or write. The only thing she could do is very laboriously uh, write her name, Agatha LeBron.
Hmm.
And it never came out the same twice, but you couldn't forge it because there was no way to forge her signature on anything.
She had figured out an anti-fraud method, just
A
never
long
writing her
time,
name the same.
right before anybody did. Uh, and so we went every month, and I went with her and helped her fill out the forms and the rest.
You mentioned the last time we talked that not only were you her interpreter, but you also had to read between the lines as to what the right answer was.
That is correct. Yeah, I was not a translator because a translator is supposed to repeat everything that the person says word for word.
Right.
Well, I didn't do that. I was an interpreter. So she told me the answer, and then I interpreted for the hearing person what the answer should have been and what it was, as far as they were concerned.
Do you
This
remember?
was, by the way, this was long before they started hiring bilingual people, uh,
Yeah.
which would have helped. Although I don't know whether they should have been able to answer the right question. But anyway, I made sure that the answer was what the interviewer was asking for.
Do you remember an example of a time when they asked like what question they asked and what answer you knew they needed?
Well,
Those-
they always ask for, are you receiving any additional income,
Ah,
that kind of thing.
we
And
all
my
know what the
mom,
answer to that needs to be.
of course, no,
Yeah.
uh,
Doesn't matter if
uh,
she's taking in laundry or she's, doing sewing work or yeah, we're not.
yeah, no, that. Uh, so yeah, they would always ask the same question: have you received any additional months, whatever? Has the rent gone up? Has your utilities, all those kind of things? Uh, yes, those questions had to be answered correctly.
I just think it's really impressive that you, as an 8-year-old, already knew and were taking care of the family in that very specific way. It's a lot for a 7 or 8 year old
Well,
to be navigating.
I knew how dependent we were on that monthly check. Without it, we would not have been able to survive for as long as we did. My
Yeah.
mother had to be on welfare with us, probably, I would guess for about 5 years
Hmm.
before she finally was able to uh, get some help from a friend of hers to open a restaurant, a very successful Puerto Rican restaurant in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And that's when we gave up welfare.
Yes. And I believe part of that story is that you also passed down your rent controlled apartment. Is that when that happened? Or was that the
Yes,
apartment in Brooklyn?
no, no, that's the apartment in Brooklyn.
Oh, yes. That's the
I
one
have no idea.
you had to pay. How much did grandma have to pay to get that rent controlled apartment?
$1,000 in 1952,
Yeah, and I think I looked that up and I think it was like 7 grand.
at least, yes, the equivalent of
Can you
7 grand.
imagine a single mom on welfare getting together a
With six,
thousand dollars with six, yeah, with 5 kids and her sister that she's taking care of,
and she was able to do it.
putting together a grand in 1950. What'd you say, 1950?
51, 52.
Wow,
Yeah,
impressive.
I would agree. And like I said, I don't know how she did it because I told you before, she was illiterate,
Right.
and yet she was no fool.